Hey guys, good morning. I listened to a gentleman by the name of James Kunstler. Big fan of him. I've been a big fan of his for a while. He wrote The Long Emergency back in it might have been '05. And that's when I really started, understanding environmental stuff. He is a conservative. And he's conservative, but he, socially and otherwise, but he acknowledged. See, one thing about '05, even back then, he acknowledged that nothing would be done about climate change. See, he's a conservative, but he acknowledges those huge rifts between rich and between poor, beyond what that does to a society. I have always had a great deal of respect for him, acknowledging that our society's collapsing, acknowledging it's a lot of things. He talked about peak oil is probably one of the biggest things that he's harped on that I can think of. And he was talking about, he talks about, this historical stuff in these areas of how they were really built. They weren't built to last. They were built on, entertainment and crap like that. That's not really designed to last. He said something that hit me. He said that he really supported Trump, but he didn't really support Trump. But he liked Trump because Trump is is going to clear off the table of in essence, so to speak. And he said this in 2020. I don't think the pandemic had started yet. The pandemic really hit back in March. And the pandemic is probably one of the best examples of why that's wrong. I love this man, I respect him, but I think he's wrong. I was an accelerationist. And what accelerationism means is I believe that it's going to take people to see what free market capitalism really is, what these things really mean, and how these things don't last. These things don't have anything for people, that there's no long-term solution. There's, conservatism has nothing for climate change. Conservatism has nothing for white mass shooters. It just doesn't. As a culture, it doesn't. All of that is designed for times when things are doing bad, things are doing good, excuse me. And that's really what that is. But as things get worse, Trump and his sense of anti-science, his sense of his belligerence, all this stuff was dangerous and reckless. And I can respect accelerationism, but I realize we're kind of at the end of history now. And what I mean by that is we're at the end of the history that we all know. See, the main thing with Kunstler, to sum it up, is that when people say make America great again, they're talking about they're in essence talking about the era of cheap energy, and that era is kind of gone now. That era it's been gone for a while, and as this stuff gets more expensive, he talks about they're having trouble pumping out oil, and then people have this idea that oil is just it just replenishes itself like it's just like water or something, evaporation and all that. And he's like, but even first of all, there's no proof of that. But even if there was, even if that's the case, you've got to be able to get to that oil. And if you're telling me that oil is in a place that's hard to get to, and that makes the price of the barrel more expensive, it's not profitable. it's not. There's no value in getting it, and that's a problem in and of itself. This comes up with great points, and I can deal with someone who is politically conservative in that manner, or conservative period in that manner. Recognizing, inequality, recognizing, inequality, recognizing injustices. He was on there with some right-wing guys on the video I watched, and the guys were trying to say like, well, white people left Detroit because they want to live around other white people, basically, kind of like pseudo straight racist stuff. And I don't blame him because going on that program, because you got to get that bag, man. And I'm not a person that can tell anybody how to get their money. I ain't got no money to get to nobody. But he made a great point. He came in and he said, that black people have really been through it, because he said, black people, really was sold a bill of sale. They came up to the north for the jobs. They came up to the north for the jobs and for the 20, 30 years of working on a conveyor line, or whatever you want to call it, working in the big factories, Ford and all that stuff. And obviously because of the racial stuff that was going on in the country at that time. And then they from there they come back. The jobs went overseas, and they were kind of like left up a creek without a paddle in essence. And he acknowledged that, talking about what black people have been through. That really touched me. I ain't asking for no white man to, kiss my ass, nothing like that. But it's true. All that is very much true, and it's factual, and it's reality. Stay on subject. I have to say that I think he got that wrong. I think that election Donald Trump, and having a once in a century pandemic was kind of a cautionary tale to everybody out there who believes in stuff like this, who believes in acceleration. Because I was accelerationist. It's just that we don't have time for this. And what's worse is then when he ran the insurrection, when he did the insurrection in order to stay in office. This is another example of him doing something that was dangerous, that was reckless, and he knew it, and he did it anyway. And I think that stuff like this further shows you that that's dangerous, man. You can't play with people like Trump. You can't play with stuff like Trump, because stuff like Trump, because see, you always had this sort of a suspicion, I guess you'd say, hermeneutics of suspicion when it came to Trump and science. Him going after the EPA, him conflicting with NOAA on a hurricane, saying it's going to hit Alabama when it wasn't. And then claiming that the pandemic wasn't that shit, waiting 2 months to do anything about the pandemic. And then going after Fauci, going after the scientists, disagreeing with them. All of this stuff, it was dangerous, it was reckless. And in my mind, what Trump did, it was honestly, it was criminally negligent. Trump's actions were criminally negligent. And, seeing Dr. Fauci say if Trump is reelected, he's going to quit, that touched me. That's probably the most political he'll ever get, and I respect that. But I just feel like, what's his name is wrong. He's wrong. Because you're dealing with people who don't value human life, who are willing to sacrifice human life, and who just really don't care about human life whatsoever. Anyway, thanks for listening.